Well, hello folks, and welcome to a slightly different Kipper Tales. So we're here in Milford Haven, which is on the southwest coast of Wales in the UK. We're here to look at Southerly 115. So it's right behind me here, so let's go and have a closer look. So this is a Southerly 115. This particular one was built in 1984 in the UK. She's about 37 foot on deck, but interestingly only about 28 on the waterline, so that's a bit different. So it's a masthead sloop, and she's got a beam of about 11, nearly 12 foot, just under 4 meters, 3.63, and she displaces about 7 ton thereabouts. Well, this was the first of 2 visits we made to this boat, but on this particular day it's quite breezy, as you can hear. Of course, the downside is it's going to limit what we could do. For example, wouldn't be too clever to put sails on a day like this. So, the interesting thing about this boat is that it is a drop keel. So what that means is that you get the benefit of shallow draft, being able to get into various places, but also then you get an increased sail performance. Interestingly, because of the fin keel, she's got a draft with a keel down of about 8 foot, 2.46 meters, and with the keel up she'll float in 2.25 feet or 0.69, which is pretty much a damp lawn, really, isn't it? So she's made by North Shore Yachts, and she's a Carter and Humphreys design. The Mark III that came some years later had a very different back end to it. So instead of this single rudder assembly, it actually had 2. So it had 2 spade rudders, which actually give it more stability when drying out. So you can see she's a twin bladed prop, no line cutter or anything on her, and she's actually been out of the water for a good while now, so she's had plenty of time for drying out. Now here's a controversial thing for you: hatches, or windows rather, that are actually in the hull fairly close to the water. Of course, the argument here is if these windows leak, there's water coming straight in your boat, whereas if your windows are actually set up onto the coach roof, etc., you've got a little bit more room to play with, haven't you? A little bit of fender rash in places, and some of the gel coating here, it's all solid enough, it just doesn't look very nice. But like all these things, TLC, buffing, and I'm sure she'll be fine. Well, that's enough of outside. I think it's time we went on board. Well, as you can see, she's a centre cockpit design, which immediately strikes you as roomy and very broad in places. And that's a feeling that's echoed as you move forward into the foredeck area. It's a fairly beamy old boat. So we've got our furling system here for the headsail, which absolutely looks huge, certainly by comparison to Kipper's. I mean, Kipper's is a T-tail by compared to this, and you can see just looking at the sheets here, they're absolutely massive. So we've got a manual windlass with a handle neatly stashed here, which is quite interesting. Don't know what that is with a plug in it. Thought I might have been a chain hose or something, but it's not. We've got some jackstays here as well, which is always nice. I always like a mast with steps on it. I've always wanted one. There's something about it that you just think, you know, I've got to climb up that, but we're guests here, so, you know, let's not forget ourselves. Probably do with a wee bit of TLC. The windows look whole, or cracking or anything like that. We've got a main sheet traveller there. As you can see, the main sheet traveller is set up forward of the cockpit. The advantage, of course, is it gives you more space in the cockpit. But I'm sitting here in the cockpit, as you can see, and it's not a bad space to be in. Actually, it's quite good. It feels quite safe in here. Actually, you know, even sitting on the aft end here, it feels like there's plenty of boat around you, so that you'd feel a little bit safer if it was a little bit lumpy, you know. You can see we got a lovely spray hood here, and it's not too imposing either. I think it's just enough, you know, to keep the wind off you, keep some of the spray off you. And of course, don't forget, being a Southerly 115, this also has an inboard steering position within the pilot house, which is great on a cold day, I'm sure. The other thing I like about this boat in particular is up here on the mainmast, you can see we've got steps going up, which is great. And I imagine also it's a bit of a mixed blessing at times, because as in this instance, a few of the halyards have actually wrapped around it already. So perhaps that is a danger of that type of arrangement. I have seen some with collapsible steps, so maybe that's a way around the problem. Okay, so let's have a look within. So we've got closing hatches, and there's a washboard that goes in the bottom here as well. A couple of steps down. Let's have a look. And then directly in front of us is the keel box, and of course gives you an idea of what position the keel is in, up or down. Well, it's worth mentioning at this stage that the Southerly 105 and the Southerly 100, the predecessors of the 115, had a very similar keel arrangement, but the key difference was that they were deployed and stored by using a mechanical winding method, whereas the 115 uses a hydraulic and electrical motor system. Going back up the companionway. Nice wide companionway, you know, just a couple of steps, nothing too drastic. And as you look around inside the main cabin, you know, you can see the attraction for these boats. They're roomy, airy, very nice. Turning starboard from the bottom of the companionway, you enter the heads, and it's a step down. It's quite a roomy space, and this one's even got a shower fitted. Unfortunately, she's been here for some time, so we're seeing things like mould, but it's still a great space. So let's have a look at the auxiliary steering position, which is internally here, as you can see, and some hatches or windows. So this is one of the joys of a pilot house type arrangement, that you can sort of have the best of both worlds. I'm not saying it's going to be a really pleasant experience helming from here, but you know, if it's really grotty and cold outside, it's certainly an option, isn't it? So, usual array of switches and so on and so forth. GPS that looks like it's seen better days. So that would be your chart table. Usual affair. Storage below, and interestingly, just in here we can see we've got part of the steering mechanism inside here. So I'll just turn the wheel slightly, you can see that moves. Not exactly what we call free running. Looks like a lot of friction in that system naturally, I think. And there's more storage underneath here as well. So, the main saloon, which is quite spacious, you know. I mean, I'm stood at deck level here now, and I've got lots of room. I'm stood here, and you know, I'm 5'10" thereabouts, and you know, I've got a good 4 inches more above my head. It's probably a good 6 foot there plus, which is nice. And there you go. I mean, if I just swing around, you can have a look at the saloon behind me here. You can see it's quite spacious. This table drops down then to form a large double here as well, which is nice. I'm sure that'll be very nice. So moving into the forward cabin, again lots of room, a bit of storage below. I haven't a clue what that is, but we'll have a look in a minute. Got a chain locker way up forward there. Bit of surface rust on things. This cushion is damp as well to the touch. You know, we can see there's water been coming in there or something, so there's mould forming there. Bit of a lee cloth there, which is always interesting to see. You can see there's been some wood damage here now, but it's dry. It just doesn't look nice. The hinges have been ripped off here. So the hatch here, obviously, concertina's up. So certainly no shortage of space on here. Compression post then. I mean, I know this is a common issue with the Southerly, this wood here. Certainly some of the others I've looked at have got a similar problem. You know, there is wood degradation there. Okay, moving aft, back into the galley. So it's quite a spacious galley. Double sink. So we've got hot and cold, and I'm guessing we've got seawater as well, as is tradition. Bit of storage up the top there. There's nice big fiddles on these. Storage in there. And then we've got your traditional stove. Don't move that too much in case I send anything flying. In need of a good clean, gimbaled, as we can see. We'll just go through into the aft cabins. We've got a step now. More storage along the side here. And into the palatial aft cabin. I think that's the term they like to say, isn't it? So we've got quite a large double, which is offset. So it's like, did I hear the term peninsula bed at one time? There we go. Storage, and some of the boats come with a like a vanity unit here, some with a sink, that sort of thing. Not sure what that is. Wardrobe. Plenty of windows in here, so you know, with all this lot open, it would be quite bright. So it's quite roomy as an aft cabin goes, definitely. Certainly doesn't feel claustrophobic or anything, which is nice. Cool. So heading on back. Okay, so we'll just have a quick look at the engine, which is a Buick 36 horsepower. Heading on back. So we've got the manual controls for the keel, so you can pump it back up. Bilge up. And back again into the main cabin. Well, before we round off with our general thoughts on the boat itself, it's worth remembering that we're actually looking at this boat with a view to shortlisting it. So with that in mind, let's have a look at one or two of the snags we found. There are some areas that give me concern. For example, there's quite a few spots within the boat that have got this sort of problem. There's been water leaking and it's caused damage, particularly on some of the woodwork. So you can see here there is actually quite a lot of repair work required on some of the wood, which will be time consuming. Well, the bilges. This level of water in the bilges is never going to help with dampness and mould in a boat. But first thing to do is get rid of it. One of my key concerns as well is the electrics. Yeah, this is what we found in the bilges, and it's frankly scary. The blue thing you can see here is actually the motor for the keel. So how many times has that been under the water? And talking of keels, it's very important that with a lifting keel you have a certain level of maintenance. Now I'm not really sure whether that's been maintained on this boat, so it's a real unknown. Now if you wanted to actually get the whole unit dropped down and reconditioned properly, you're looking at in excess of 10 grand, which as you can imagine puts a fair packet further on your boat price. Of course, the alternative is keel failure, which could be in an upward position or a downward position. And of course, if that happens, you're in a world of hurt. Unfortunately, looking around here on Pete's Dragon, we can see some of the joints are actually been weeping. Now, I'm not really sure what goes on beneath there, but I do know there's bolts that hold the keel plate in position, and some of those don't look great. You know, I get more and more concerned when I see things like that. Pretty rusty. Well, and so there she is, Pete's Dragon. She's a Southerly 115. She's got a lot going for her, but she does have a lot of work required as well. These boats in good condition are fetching somewhere in the region of 60k plus. This one's on the market for 30k, but as I say, she does need work. I'm a big fan of the central cockpit. It does elevate you away from the water a little bit and does feel very secure. The saloon is light and airy, loads of space to relax, and I do like the internal steering position as well. So what do you think, folks? Could this one be on the shortlist? Let us know what you think in the comments. So there's another viewing, folks, and I hope you found that interesting, especially if you've not actually had a look around the Southerly 115 before. Well, for us the journey continues. Don't forget, join us next time, folks, when we make a relatively local run for ourselves as we head to Swansea to have a look at a Westerly Seahawk 35. And, super special, we take you on a sea trial. Thanks for being part of this journey, folks. Don't forget, hit that bell and stay up to date with all the latest developments.